Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Get to the Source with Dr. Marco. My name is Robert Allen. I'm Dr. Marco's producer, and I'll be here running the show in the background tonight, taking all of your questions and your comments. So if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. If you're on our event page, you can enter your question right below the video that you're watching, and we'll get that, and I'll make sure that I get that into Dr. Marco to answer that for you throughout the webinar tonight. We've got a great program lined up for you, and this is something that certainly everyone can benefit from, and that is defeating stress. I know I've got a whole lot of it with two kids in college and running a business, and I'm looking forward to this as much as you all are. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Marco. Dr. Marco, how are you tonight?
Good evening. What's going on? How are you?
Good. I'm glad to be back here with another live edition of Get to the Source, and we've got a lot of great information to share. And so I'll be here fielding all the questions, and Dr. Marco, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the great introduction. And I want to reiterate what Robert said. I encourage questions. I encourage interaction. The best type of talks that I do are ones when there's engagement of the audience. So I highly recommend throwing out a question. Even if I can't get to it immediately, Robert will hold it and I'll answer it later. Because this is going to be one I think a lot of people are going to have questions about. Because stress is something that we all deal with. We can't get away from it. It's a part of life. And to be alive is to be under stress. But how well do you adapt to that stress is really what I want to go over tonight. So as I mentioned, you know, we're calling this defeating stress. How do you defeat stress in your life? You can't remove it, but you can adapt to it. So we have a few things on the agenda for today. The first thing is we want to understand the different types of stresses. You know, there's different types of stresses that we deal with, and we're going to go over that. We want to talk about the difference between acute stress and chronic stress and what that does to our body, because they're both going to do different things. Then I want to give you tips and strategies, because everybody always wants to go home taking home some advice and ways to better their life. I would never do a presentation that wouldn't include a benefit for the audience. And also last, being that you want to go home with the benefit, I want you to create an action plan that you could start tomorrow. So that's my agenda for the rest of the evening, and I look forward to sharing this great information with you. So common stressors. Who feels like that some days? I know I do once in a while, and I'm sure there's many of you out there that feels like that picture. You just want to pull out all your hair. But what are some common stressors in our life? You know, some common stressors could be a poor diet, lack of exercise, poor attitude or the way that we think, work stresses, family and friends that are stressors. Kids could be a stress. Sometimes they're good stress, sometimes they're bad stress. And then last one is one that you may not know of, and we call it in chiropractic the subluxation. It's just it's a fancy word for a misalignment of the spine that puts a stress on that nervous system. Very, very, very important to understand and very overlooked by many people. So we're going to really dig into that and talk about what that is. You know, so a quick synopsis of it is it's an abnormal posture or spinal position. So instead of having that proper posture, you're either slouching forward or you're shifting your body. That puts a stress on the nervous system. Your nervous system controls your whole body. That stress on the nervous system is going to change the way you function as a person. And that is going to unfortunately bring you down a road towards sickness and disease. And we don't want that. So we're going to help you learn how to get rid of all that. But that's not what I want to go over first. I want to go over about what stress is. So it's impossible to avoid stress. Like I said earlier, to be alive is to be under stress. Any emotion, any activity you do is going to cause a stress. Some stresses are good, some stresses are bad. So you may say to yourself, what could possibly be a good stress? How about exercise? Exercise is a stress to the body and the bones, but in a good way. It's supposed to better your health. Makes you have stronger bones, stronger muscles, more balance, more coordination, better in your daily living. So that's a positive stress. If you overwork out, so you work out too much, because there's some people that do that, then that would be a bad stress. But that would be an example of a good stress. What's another good stress you could think about? Oh, go back, sorry. All right, so we lost that one. Anyway, so another good stress could be I'm going. What can I think about right now? I'm going blank right this second because I got interrupted. So so go back. You keep going forward, Robert. There we go. So we're gonna categorize the stress in our life. You know, I'm sure you could spit off 10 things in your life that you're stressed about. But for tonight's talk, we're going to group them into 3 different sections. So the first one we're going to talk about is physical stress. That's stress on your physical body. That could be from being overweight. That could be from a lack of exercise. That could be from spinal stress that we're going to talk about later. Those are physical stresses. They're stresses on your physical body. Then we also could categorize them into chemical stresses. Chemical stresses are what is put in your body, or what are you breathing in from the environment. That would be a chemical stress. So the foods that you're putting in your body every day, the sodas or waters or whatever you're drinking is a stress on the body. So that's the second category. Our third category is going to be emotional stress. That's how we think. Believe it or not, the way we think has a detrimental or a positive effect on our health. So having a positive attitude and having positive thoughts is actually good for your health, as weird as that may sound for some people. So those are the 3 categories that we're going to kind of discuss throughout the webinar today. So the same stress that could make a person sick can be invigorating to another person. How could that possibly be? Well, certain people adapt to stress very easily. They don't let stress run their life, or they don't let stress destroy their life. Whereas some people, you know, they get a bad grade on a test and their life is over. You know, it's, oh my God, I'm going to fail out of life. I'm never going to get a job. Like, that's the type of mentality they may have. So certain people can look at a situation as stressful and another situation is not stressful. So that just that shows a differentiation between us as all people. You know, everybody's different. Some people may think differently than others. So the stress itself, the situation itself, is not the problem. It's what the stress does to the body that's the problem. And we're going to go over that a little bit more. So we're going to talk about the stress response today. So the stress response, you're going to have immediate stress response. So when you have an immediate stress response, it's called an acute stress response. It's in a short period of time. But if that stress never gets dealt with and it keeps going on and you're not really trying to adapt to that stress or fix that stress, then it becomes something more chronic, and the stress response in a chronic situation is going to be more detrimental than an acute stress. So we're going to go over that as well. So everybody laughs when I talk about this, but everybody has gas. So what is gas? It's not what you're thinking about. It's not the gas in our body. When confronted with a stress, there's many complicated things that happen inside of you. The nervous system, like I said earlier, which controls your entire body, it creates what is called the general adaptation syndrome. It's not a syndrome, it's not a sickness, it's just a reaction to what's going on around you. And we name that gas. So there's 3 stages that we're going to talk about today. There's the call to arms stage, there's the resistance phase, and there's the exhaustion phase. Those are the 3 different ones we're going to talk about very briefly, but this is a normal response to stress. The problem is you're not supposed to have stress all day long and not being dealt with. So what we're going to go over the next 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to talk about what the body does under stress, but it's normal, but not for a long period of time. Just wanted to clear that up. So what's the call to arms stage? That is the alarm reaction. So that's the initial reaction to stress. The nervous system detects some type of stress in our life, whether it's physical, emotional, chemical, one of those categories. Then it sends a signal to the brain, and the endocrine system starts to create what we call the fight or flight response. It's a normal process that happens in the body, but it shouldn't be there chronically. So that's the cold arms, the initial phase. If that stress is removed, guess what? We go back to normal. That's the initial reaction. You have a stressful situation, you talk to somebody about it, you do something to create a better situation, and then that stress is removed and we're back to normal. Awesome, we feel good. That's the call to arms. The resistance phase is when we're not dealing with the stress and it starts to stay in the stressful situation longer. So as the stress continues, this is when the body tries to adapt to itself. So your body is amazing. Your nervous system is amazing. It's always in the state of trying to keep you in a balance or at equilibrium. So it's going to try to adapt to the stresses. You know, so if you have a bad posture, your body's going to try to adapt to those stresses. Unfortunately, they can only adapt for so long. If you're eating, bad foods, your body's going to try to get rid of that bad food by, going to the bathroom, or if it's really bad, it's going to help you throw up. But only can do that for so long. If it's continuing to go, then it's going to get worse, and you're going to start to go to the next phase that we're going to talk about. So in this phase, though, if you stop that stress, even though it's still trying to adapt it, your body will go back to normal, and you're cool. That's the resistance. But the exhaustion phase, I mean, just the word exhaustion, I'm sure people could relate to. This is when you're not dealing with the stress in your life. You're just allowing it to keep going and going and going and going. And you're not really doing anything about it, or shouldn't say you're not doing anything about it, but you may not know what to do about it. Hence why I do this webinar, so you can learn a little bit more about what you can do to adapt to the stress. During this stage, unfortunately, being that your body's exhausted and it can't adapt anymore and it can't fight anymore, what's going to happen is you're going to start to fall prey to the sickness and disease that most people go through. We don't want to hit this phase, but sometimes we do. So bam, look what this is. A tiger is on the screen. So imagine if a tiger walked in the room. What the heck is going to happen? Your body's going to have certain reactions that it's going to have inside of it. It's just immediate. The body's going to try to get away from that in that stressful situation, that tiger coming at you. So we're going to start off with what we call the acute reactions. So I'm sorry, let's back up a second. So we talked about the fight or flight response. The fight or no, sorry about that. I just skipped. I forgot about this slide. So the fight or flight response is the response from the body. So that tiger runs in the room, and your body's going to say, I need to get away from this. I need to change the way my body functions right now. But it's a normal reaction. Remember this. So cortisol and adrenaline is going to start releasing, and other stress hormones. And it starts to release, and there's going to be amazing things that start to occur. What are these amazing things? Voila. This is called the acute stress response. So these are immediate responses. There's going to be a reason why we're going to have immediate response, because once again, you're trying to get away from that stressful situation. So I'm going to go one by one, slowly, try to let you understand this. So the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to increase the stress hormones. Like I just said, you're going to have adrenaline, you're going to have epinephrine, you're going to have all these stress hormones that are going to release, because they're going to try to prepare this body to do something. Whether you're running, whether you're fighting, who knows what it's going to be. That's why it's called fight or flight. So you're either going to do something about it and attack, or you're going to get the heck away. So your stress hormones are going to release. So if you have to get away from a tiger or a lion or something crazy, what's going to happen? You're going to have an increased heart rate and increased blood pressure. Why? Because you need to get as much blood and oxygen to the muscles so you could run or fight. So again, an immediate response that's normal in a stressful situation. So we have an increase in the stress hormones. Then we're going to have an increase of blood pressure, increase of heart rate to get that blood to the body. Then we're going to get an increase in our blood glucose, because you need quick energy. You need that energy to get the heck away or to fight. So blood glucose is going to go up. Your blood fat and your blood cholesterol is also going to raise, because you need to prepare for wound healing in case there's some type of attack or you need help in that way. Then there's also going to be increases of feelings of fear and anxiety, and this is going to allow you to concentrate on that threat, because you want to have all of your focus on that threat. So we have increase in stress hormones, increase in heart rate, blood pressure, increase in blood glucose, increase of fats and cholesterols, and then we're going to have more anxiety and fear. There's also more. So we're going to decrease. So if we have increases, we also have to decrease something. So we're going to decrease our short-term memory and our ability to learn. Because in that moment when you're trying to get away from a lion or a tiger, do you care what you're about to learn, or what you're about to do in that situation? That's why some situations where, say you're in a fight or say you're in an argument or something, and later on you try to think about the argument and you're like, man, it went so fast, I don't even know what I even said or did. Because your memory just doesn't care about what's going on, it just needs to get away. So it's not important for that immediate sort of survival, so it doesn't matter what you're learning and what you're remembering at that moment. It decreases serotonin and increases adrenaline. This keeps you alert and ready to react. It increases your sensitivity to pain because you need to respond quickly if there's an injury. Pain is not always a bad thing. It's a signal to say something's going on. Put your hand on a stove. What happens? You pull your hand away. That's a reaction because your body's trying to get away from an injury. So sometimes pain is a good thing to tell you what's going on. You're going to decrease cellular immunity. You're going to decrease growth in sex hormones, and you're going to increase bone loss. Because these are not really important for immediate survival, so why do you care about that? You don't need your immune system when you're trying to get away from a stressful situation. You don't need, to grow and have all these sex hormones going when you're trying to get away from something. So that's the acute response. Those are things that are immediate. So what's the issue here? What if you don't deal with that stress? What if that stressful situation stays there every day, all day, and you don't deal with it, whether you don't know how or you just are trying to ignore it and put it under the rug? Then we get more towards a chronic stress response. That is where we get in trouble. That is when we start to get disease. Like we said earlier, that exhaustion phase. We're reaching that disease phase. So when we have an increase in the stress hormones over a long period of time because the body's still preparing to respond, you're going to have a lot of stress. When you have an increase in the heart rate or increase in the blood pressure in a long period of time, what do you get? You get heart disease. You get hypertension, which is high blood pressure. You can get a heart attack. Pretty serious stuff. How about when you increase your blood glucose? What's that called? Diabetes. Or if your blood glucose goes low, hypoglycemia. How about when you have increased fat and cholesterol in the blood? Well, now you're going to have hardening of the arteries. You could get stroke, cardiovascular disease, obesity, not stuff you want to deal with, huh? How about when you increase that fear and anxiety? What is that called? That's called depression, bipolar, other psychological disorders. Can you see how a chronic stressful situation could cause us to have sickness and disease? All because it's not being dealt with. Because once again, remember I said earlier, these are normal responses, but it's not meant to be there all day long every day. So the chronic stress response is when you're going to start getting these diseases. Next slide. How about decreased short-term memory or ability to learn? Well, that could be ADHD. That could be struggles at your job. If you can't learn or you have a short-term memory, how are you going to work well? You're going to be inefficient in your job and in your life. Ineffective in your family life. Increase in other stresses. That's pretty big. How about when you decrease serotonin and you increase adrenaline? Well, if you have increase in adrenaline, guess what adrenaline does? It gives you energy. Well, now you can't sleep. Now you have chronic fatigue because you're not sleeping, and then eventually you're going to burn out. So that's something that you need to be aware of. And then how about an increase in the sensitivity to pain? So like I said, pain is good, but not in a long period of time. So that would be chronic pain, fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is running rampant right now. I mean, I have so many people come to the office that are diagnosed with fibromyalgia because their body is not sensing itself the way it's supposed to because of, could be chronic stress, but it could be also other things as well. How about if you decrease immunity, you decrease growth in sex hormones, and you increase bone loss? What does that look like? Well, if you're decreasing your immune system, how are you going to fight disease? So now you have a chance for cancer. Now you have a chance to frequently become ill. Now you have a chance for infertility. Those sex hormones aren't working very well. How about menstrual problems, impotence, osteoporosis, accelerated aging? Because growth hormone is needed for aging. So if you decrease growth hormone, you're going to accelerate that aging process. So can't you see the difference between acute stress and chronic stress? So acute stress is to get you out of that situation. I need to get away. Get me away from the stressful situation. That's immediate. Once that stress is gone, we're back to normal. But what if that never gets dealt with? Now you're dealing with disease and sickness, and we do not want that. So what's next? What is the normal process that people go through? So let's see. We talked about you get an increase in heart rate, get an increase in blood pressure, you get an increase in cholesterol, increase in blood sugar, and an increase in your sensory systems. Now what? What happens? Most people go to a doctor and say, I'm not feeling well, can you check what's going on? They see all those things increase. What do? They give you a drug for blood pressure. They give you a drug for cholesterol. They give you a drug for pain. They give you a drug for depression. Is that the solution? I don't think so. That's just covering the symptom. The stress, whether it's physical, chemical, emotional, or a combination of all, is what the problem is. It's not that you're lacking those drugs. Those drugs just keep you is maintaining the problem. It's just keeping you at bay. Maybe it won't make it get worse, but it's not correcting the problem. The problem is the stress itself. So we also talked about a decrease in your digestion, a decrease in your sexual function, a decrease in your immune system, a decrease in your concentration. So what happens next? Let's get them on a drug. We got to increase that stuff. So let's give you a drug for the digestive disorder. Let's give you a drug for the sexual dysfunction. Viagra is a perfect example of that. Let's give you a drug for the immune system. Let's give you a drug for concentration, like for ADD. That's not the solution, everyone. That is not the solution. The solution is removing the stress. All of these stress responses are normal. Get that in your head. It's normal. But it's not normal in a long period of time. Taking the drugs does not remove that stress in any way. So now guess what? You're taking a medication. Now you have to react to that medication. Your body has to adapt to that medication. Now it's even more of a stress. It's crazy how people live sometimes. So dealing with the stress and helping remove it is the primary solution to the problem. Some of the things we're going to talk about. You want to talk about chiropractic care, a well-balanced diet, exercise, sleeping well. Those are all things to help you adapt to stress, not drugs that are helping you maintain the stress. But how many of us practice this versus how many take the drugs? It's sad, and that's why our world is so sick. They're not dealing with the problem, they're dealing with the symptom. It has to be changed. There's no way you can live a healthy life if you're not going to address the problems. So how do you go from stressful to relaxed? We're going to go with 2 strategies. Number 1, you want to reduce the stress, whether it's physical, chemical, or emotional. So if it's physical stress, let's say you're 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight, and you don't exercise, and you have a poor diet, and if you were to go to chiropractor, they tell you have bad posture. You got to deal with that. You can't live life without dealing with it. That's going to take the stress off your body and allow you to live happier and healthier. Chemically, what are you putting in your body every day? Food is put in our body for fuel and for our body to use it and make cells and tissues and organs of it. It's not meant to make you heavy and make you sick. But if you're eating foods that are not beneficial to the body, that's what the body's going to do. It's going to start to break down because it's not getting that proper fuel. So chemically, you got to look at what you're putting in your body. Are you drinking 1, 2, 3 sodas a day? Or you're drinking 5, 10 glasses of water? Are you having a McDonald's cheeseburger, or are you having a salad with chicken? It's small decisions, but they make miraculous changes when you start to do that. And emotionally, how are you thinking? That is huge. The way you think is really detrimental or positive, depending on what you want to do, to the health. So the first strategy is reduce the stress. So whatever's going on in your life, you've got to reduce that. And if you don't know how to, this is what I'm here for. Ask questions, try to figure out ways to do it. Then second, we need to improve our body's ability to adapt to the stress. So you got to remove that stress, but we need to learn how to adapt to that stress. And that's where we're going to get to the four keys to health and wellness. So the 4 keys to health and wellness. Number 1, as a chiropractor, I got to say it. It's the big elephant in the room. You have to get adjusted. And when you're not getting adjusted for the benefit of the chiropractor, you're getting adjusted for the benefit of you. Because your body cannot function well if it has spinal stress. Period, the end. If any doctor tells you otherwise, they're lying to you for some other weird reason. You can't live healthy. You can't be at optimum. You can't be the healthiest you could possibly be with spinal stress. You can be healthy, but you can't be your highest potential. Because what does the adjustment do? The adjustment takes the stress off the nervous system. It allows the body that mobility that it needs. The nervous system is your master system. Spinal stress destroys the nerve signals going from your brain down the spinal cord, out the spinal nerves to your organ. So if you just think logically, do you want to cut off in any way, whether it's a small or a large amount, the communication from your brain down to your heart or your brain down to your lungs? Do you ever want to interfere with that? No. But there's too many people that walk around with that all day long. How many people have emphysema? How many people have asthma? How many people have heart disease? Those are all huge diseases that if they address the spine, it would be improved. Will it be 100% taken away? You don't know. The body's an amazing thing. You can't say yes, but you can't say no. But you got to take that stress off the nervous system. And the only way to do that is to get regular adjustments and do some postural exercises. That's it. You have to do it. If you're ignoring that part of your life, you're doing a disservice to your body. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Next, we got to talk about eating a clean diet. I just talked about chemical stresses. Eating a clean diet. You want to have about 65% of your diet fresh fruits and vegetables, 35% proteins, and you want as little of the grains and carbohydrates as you can. You could get carbohydrates from your fruits and vegetables. You could get carbohydrates from other sources. It doesn't have to come from bread, pasta, sandwiches, and all that stuff. So you want to eat a clean diet and avoid toxins. Then you want to exercise regularly. These are very key. You want to exercise. Why? Not to look good. Most people exercise to look good. Yeah, it's good to look good, but it's not what keeps you healthy. You want to exercise because it keeps you strong. It keeps you balanced. It decreases osteoporosis. It increases bone growth, obviously. There's a lot more to working out than just sitting there and looking good. So that's the exercise aspect. You want to exercise regularly. You want to do about 3 times per week, about 15 to 30 minutes a day. That's not a lot of time. It really isn't. But you just have to squeeze it in. You know, there's some people out there that think that they have to work out for an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym. You don't have to do that. If you do it regularly for that period of time, you're going to get great results. And then lastly is the positive thinking skills. So look, we touched every single stressor. We touched physical stress, getting adjusted. We touched chemical stress. We talked about eating a clean diet. We're talking about exercise. That's also chemical stress. And then positive thinking. A research out of the study of the University of Pittsburgh studied optimists versus pessimists. So an optimist is somebody that thinks positively. A pessimist is somebody that thinks more negatively and more is more resistant. So the optimists live longer and healthier lives. Women who said that they expected good rather than bad to happen were 30% likely to, 30% less likely to suffer from heart disease and 14% less from other diseases. Just by thinking differently changes your chances down 30%. That's amazing. All because you have to think differently. But if you're thinking, you know, oh, I'm depressed, nothing goes right for me, everybody hates me, all that stuff, just think, like, even just talking about it, like, I'm getting a little weird feelings inside of me. Like, I don't want to talk about it. You got to be positive. In every situation, every stressful situation, whether it's good or bad, you're going to get a positive result out of it. There's some situations where you may think your life is over. There's nothing you could do right now. There's nothing you could change. If you sit there for about 5 minutes, take a breath, put all those thoughts in your head that you're creating, and just sit there and say, what can I learn from this situation? You will learn so much more. You're going to think differently about that situation. Where in this am I getting something positive out of it? Because there's nothing in your life that occurs to you without a reason. This higher power up there is there for a reason. He's looking over you, he or she. So the way you think is a lot more important than you think. So the spine and nervous system, we talked about it very, very quickly. But this is huge. That's why I keep reiterating it, because it's the most overlooked aspect of caring for their health is spinal stress. So if we look to the left, you have a picture of what ideal posture is. To the right, you have a picture of the nervous system. The nervous system controls you. So if you look, you have a brain up top, and then you have a spinal cord coming down, and then off of the spinal cord you see these little these nerves coming out, and you have each organ of your body. And it just shows where in the body, where in the spine does it control that body. You cannot function without that nervous system. So having an ideal posture, an ideal spinal position is important. I actually have a spine here that I want to talk about. It's right here next to me. So this is your spine. An example of your spine. Really, really quickly and briefly. This is the front of your spine. When you look at the front of the spine, it should be perfectly straight. You should not have any bends, you shouldn't have any shifts, and you shouldn't have any curves. You should not look like that if we were to take an x-ray of you. Unfortunately, when you don't care for your spine, you can end up like this. And guess what happens? These nerves here, which control our body, are getting compressed and destroyed. And the communication that goes from his brain down here out to the body is getting messed up. Think of it like a flow of water from a hose. That flow is getting messed up. If you compress a hose, that flow of the water is going to get interfered with, and guess what? The water that's watering those flowers is getting interrupted. And guess what's going to happen? Those flowers are going to slowly die. But slowly die, not immediate. That's why you can't tell if you're getting sick. Cancer, can you feel it? No. Heart disease, can you feel it? No. Lung cancer, or it's the same in cancer. You can't feel that. You can't feel it. So when you base your health on feeling, you're just going down the wrong road at 100 miles an hour. So we have to go based on function, the way you're functioning, and you cannot function well with a spine that looks like this. How about the side view? Let's quickly talk about the side view. This is the side view. You're supposed to have curves in the spine. You're supposed to have a curve that goes backwards in the neck, forwards in the mid-back, and backwards in the lower back. That's the proper posture that we were built to have. What's the #1 posture that most people have? Let's call it a forward head posture. The head comes forward off the shoulders. Now you don't have that proper curve. You lost that proper curve. You're putting compression on the joints. You're putting compression on the ligaments, the discs, the muscles, the nerves that are controlling your body. And guess what? That head is really heavy, so gravity starts to take over. What happens over time? Your shoulders start to round forward. Now you're starting to look like this. When you're spine, do you really want to look like that? It's crazy. But people walk around every day looking like this, and they don't even think it's a problem. We need to open your eyes and say, that's not happening anymore. Spine and nervous system is one of the biggest stressors to the body when it's not in the right position. So just going to a chiropractor, getting an evaluation tomorrow, and starting chiropractic care is one thing that could dramatically change your life, let alone the changing of your diet, changing of all the other things that we were talking about. So your spine and nervous system is a lot more than what you think. So I hope I motivated some people to check that out. So let's talk about emotion, the way we think. You need to free your mind. You need to lighten up. And I say that because there's a lot of people that take things so seriously. Don't take life so seriously. It wasn't meant to be serious. It's meant to have fun and live and love and have great relationships. It's not about, you know, oh, I have to make this much money. You know, are you going to be healthy? If you make $1 million, but you don't take care of your health, are you really going to be healthy? No. It doesn't matter of those other things. Those are all just materialistic things. It's about having fun, having great relationships, and living your life the way it's supposed to. You want to laugh. Laughter promotes healing. How many people you know that are depressed that are walking around laughing? No. You can't laugh and be depressed at the same time. It's almost impossible. So why don't you live a life that you're laughing more instead of thinking like your life is over more? Volunteer. It boosts your self-esteem, believe it or not. Go volunteer your time at a soup kitchen, or go give to the poor, or volunteer your time to do something that you wouldn't normally do. If you leave that situation and you're not happy afterwards, there's something wrong. Because volunteering your time and giving to others is what life is all about. It's not about taking. You take, and you don't give, it's not good for you. You want to have a social life, and you want to, I'm not big on discussing religion because some people like it, some people don't. But you want to have a social life because that boosts heart health by almost 300%. Having good social relationships. If you have a stressful relationship, reevaluate that relationship. Is that person good for your life? Or if it is somebody that's so close to you can't get rid of it, let's say a mother or a father or a sister, you need to sit down and talk to that person and let them know some of the stresses that are going inside of you about that relationship. You can mend any relationship with the spoken word. It's called communication. But too many people don't want to communicate. But that will take how many times have you talked about something and all of a sudden afterwards you're like, oh, I feel like 100 pounds is off of me. That's kind of true, because all that stress on you is just weighing on you. You take that off and it's like, oh man, I feel lighter. Add that to eating well, add that to getting adjusted regularly. You're going to have a different life. So here's a quick summary of some things on how to stay healthy during stressful times. I guess that got cut off. Apologies. So during stressful times, how do you stay healthy? How do you adapt to it? So you want to maintain a balanced wellness program. That wellness program includes exercise. It includes chiropractic. It includes eating well. It includes thinking well. All of those things is your wellness plan. That's what health is all about. Health is not about a symptom. Health is not about, wait, do I feel good right now? No, I'm healthy. It's not about it. It's about taking action now that's going to make you healthier tomorrow. That's what health is about. So you want to maintain a balanced wellness program. You want to maintain healthy relationships like I was just talking about. You want to sleep well. You want to get about 6 to 8 hours a week. I'm sorry, a week. Take that back. You want to have about 6 to 8 hours a day of sleep. You don't want to have 10, 12, 13 hours a day. You don't want to have like 3 or 4 hours a day. You want to get that happy medium of 6 to 8 hours. Everything's all about moderation. You're not supposed to sleep forever, and you're not supposed to not sleep. You're not supposed to be insomnia. So once you start to get your life together and sleep well, your body heals well, because most of your healing of your body is during sleep. So how about pray or meditate? Prayer or meditation is a great way to get inside of you. You just get away from this world around us and just get inside of you and just center yourself and think, what can I do right now to make my life better? Have a pet or a hobby. That takes your life and your mind away from the craziness and puts it in a good place. So hobbies are things that you love to do that doesn't require getting paid for or whatever. And having a pet, pets are one of the greatest things. They're one of the things that give you the most love, and feeling love and getting love is healthy. So find what that thing is that you love. I like to tell, I teach at a university, I like to tell my students, find out the thing that you love the most and figure out how to make money doing it. How amazing is that? And then you're like, what? Really? That's crazy. But that's really, it's just about finding what you love and doing it. And like we said earlier, you want to love and laugh more, because that's all about life. Life is about that type of stuff. Volunteer, smile, because it's contagious. You're smiling now, I know it. Limit your sweets and alcohol. Sweets, is the #1 thing that causes sickness and disease. Guess what gets attracted to sugar? Lots of sugar. Cancer. Guess what happens when you have too much sugar? Your immune system goes down. Now you're more susceptible to disease. It's a lot of things that happen when you have too much sugar. So you want to limit the sugars. And you want to limit the alcohol. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. It kills the brain cells. We all like it at some moments, but it's not something you should be doing on a regular basis. You want to think and be positive. This mind is powerful. Create a lot of things with it. So you want to think positively. You want to belly breathe. Get that oxygen through the body, because the body needs that oxygen. So you're somebody that's doing, because when you're stressed, when you're in a stressful situation, you're not breathing, taking full breaths. You usually have that panting, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. How do you function when you're not even getting enough oxygen to your body? So just take deep, big belly breaths. Take a time away, 5 minutes, 10 minutes away, and just take some deep breaths in and just relax. Keep your finances in balance. I mean, I know it's just a superficial thing, but one of the biggest stressors in people's lives and one of the biggest reasons why people get divorced is financial stresses. So try to don't go out there and buy the brand new car that you have to put, on a credit card or get a finance. Get something you could afford. Live within your means. Simplify your life. Don't make things so complicated. There's things in life that are easy to do. We make it too complicated with the thoughts in our heads and everything like that. And then lastly, like I said, I'm going to reiterate it over and over again. You need to get adjusted regularly, not once or twice a year. Regularly, you need to fix that spine. Period. The end. So that's a nice summary. So I want to close with a scenario. Imagine $3. Excuse me. Imagine $3. We have 1, 2, 3. $1 is glass, $1 is plastic, and $1 is steel. So we strike a hammer to each one of those things. So what's going to happen to the glass? When you take a hammer and hit that glass, what's going to happen? It's going to shatter. This represents a person who cannot adapt to the life stresses and inevitably will fall to sickness and disease. Those are the people that, one little thing's happen and their whole life is in shambles. The next one, what if you take that hammer and you hit the plastic? Well, plastic won't break, but it will scar. So this is the person that will not necessarily fall ill or die, but they will never really fully recover to the stress because they do have that scar and they're holding on to something. How about when you take that hammer and hit steel? You get a nice, beautiful, pleasant ring. Ding! That's the person that adapts well to stress. So my question to you, which one are you? How do you respond to stress? Are you the glass doll or are you the steel doll? Two different worlds, but it's all up to you. The choice is yours. Do you want to live like the guy to the left and be disconnected from your world? There's no connection from your body to the brain. You're diseased, you're sick, you're ill, or do you want to be connected? You have whole life. You want to have complete expression of life. Excuse me. Look at how happy the guy to the right. The guy to the right is actually older than the guy to the left, but he looks so happy and healthy. And the guy to the left looks so down and depressed. Who do you want to be? The choice is yours. So here's where this is where your life changed. Because in order to change your life, it's all about action. Taking an action today or tomorrow that's going to change your life. Not sitting in front of your computer and watching a webinar and being like, wow, that was great information. All right, now I'm going to go back to my regular life. It's not how it works. So what you're going to do is you're going to create an action plan. I want you to write down 3 things right now that you learned from tonight that you can implement in your life tomorrow to decrease that stress. And then when you write that down, I want you to commit to yourself, because this is all your responsibility. Your health is your responsibility. It's not a doctor. It's not your mother. It's not your father. It's not your brother. It's not your sister. It's your responsibility. So you have to commit yourself tomorrow to do 1 or all 3 of those things and continue that for weeks to months at a time and see how your life changes. But it's all about action. You have to put the action in. You're never going to get healthy if you stay where you are. So it's all about action. Take that action. So I want to thank you for your attention, for your time. I'm very passionate about health, hence why I get so excited, especially about chiropractic, because it is humongous for your health. So I want to thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask now or contact me. There's my email, our website. You can ask questions through our website. So if we don't have any questions, Robert, how we doing?
Actually, we have we do have a question
Perfect.
that was asked about why people tend to eat when they're stressed. Why does that happen?
So some people, they're emotional eaters. You know, they eat because it's something it's something that they could do with themselves that makes them feel better. You know, and especially when you're stressed, guess what happens? All the things changes. You increase your blood sugar, you increase all that, so your body's going to crave more fuel because it needs to function well. So when you're in a high stress level, it's going to want that food. So some people go grab that food because they want to decrease that stress. But the issue is they're using that food to make them feel better. They're not dealing with the situation that's at hand. That's the biggest disconnect. Is, oh my God, I'm so stressed. My family just yelled at me, or whatever your situation is. Okay, now I'm going to I just can't deal with it. So I'm going to close my eyes, turn my head, and I'm going to go eat. And it's not dealing with the stress. And then you're just going to go down this entire road that we just talked about today. So it's all about dealing with the stress, whether it's comfortable or not comfortable. Confronting somebody that's been stressing you or something that's been stressing you is very uncomfortable. But it's something that's going to change your life forever. But people don't like to be out of their comfort zone. So that's huge. It's really about dealing with that situation rather than going to grab a cookie or going to grab a sandwich or going to grab whatever you need to grab. And usually guess what happens when you eat something during a stressful time? You don't pick the best foods because you're thinking bad. So when you're thinking bad, you're going to eat bad. Hope that question was answered.
Okay. We have another question about sleep.
Okay.
They recommend getting 8 hours of sleep a night. This person is saying that they usually only sleep about 5 hours a night, but would taking a nap at a point in the afternoon be included in that total amount of sleep?
Well, obviously it adds to the total, but you want to have pure 6 to 8 hours of sleep during the nighttime, because when you're sleeping during the day, first of all, you're not supposed to sleep during your day. A nap is usually to energize you during the day, but you live a healthy life, you should be energized throughout the day. So what I would recommend is evaluating what you're doing before you go to bed. So some people eat before they go to bed. If you eat something, especially if it's not a healthy meal, something that's going to be higher in sugar, if you eat a meal within 2 hours before you go to sleep, that your body's still going to be processing that sugar. It's not going to be able to sleep very well. So you want to reevaluate what you're doing before the sleep, and you also want to reevaluate, believe it or not, your hydration level. Hydration. Most people, a lot of people are walking around chronically dehydrated. So you want to look, am I somebody that's drinking water, or am I somebody that's drinking sugary drinks, or not even drinking at all? So that's big, and you may not think like, oh, my hydration has to do with my sleep, but it actually does. So you want to look into that. So you want to look at what you're putting in your body before you go to sleep, and you want to also look at your hydration and obviously evaluate your stress level. Because like you said before, if you're stressed, you have all these epinephrine and all these stress hormones going, you can't really sleep that way. So I want to say it doesn't add to that amount. So it's not like you could sleep 3 hours at night, then sleep 3 hours at 11 o'clock, and then 3 hours at 7 o'clock. Okay, I had my 8 to 9 hours. No, it doesn't work that way. Plus, you're not very productive if you're sleeping in the middle of the day. That would be usually like a blood sugar issue, too. Look at the blood sugar.
Okay, I think those are all the questions that we had this evening. But as you can see up on the screen, Dr. Marco's contact information is right there. If anybody does have any additional questions, we'll make sure that we get them to Dr. Marco to answer.
Excellent. Well, Robert, I appreciate your time as well. Thank you so much for your help. And if there's no more questions, what a great webinar this was. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Marco. We'll see you next time.